Before I even understand what has happened to my life, Loran City has already reduced the disaster to paperwork. A town has just been wiped out by blood Nagas, 1,300 people dead, and the civil office moves straight to clerks, replacement residents, and the next file on the desk. The place I actually live is the 9th District, the part of Loran City nobles pretend does not exist. I thread through black water, sewer stink, flies, and people too hungry to look alive, until I reach a low house with moss on the walls and a lock that barely deserves the name. Inside, the truth is even smaller, barely a dozen square meters, a broken low bed in the corner, 2 blackened covers, and almost nothing else. I sit down, reach under the bed, and find the food this body has been living on, black bread hard enough to feel like stone. 3 days ago, I was a different man from another world. Now I am trapped in a medieval-looking world where gods punish cities, dragons destroy towns, demons conduct bloody rites, and ordinary people are just bodies waiting for something stronger to decide their fate. I have inherited the body of Lear, the last blood heir of a fallen noble family. The L's title was stripped after no one could inherit it in time, and the only legal path back is cruel: become a pioneer lord and open new land beyond the kingdom's protection. Then Jem interrupts me from the doorway. The old dock worker is not family, but in this slum he is the closest thing I have to protection. He sees my pale face, sees the decision behind it, and can only sigh, as if asking why I would do this to myself. Jem does not dramatize the wilderness because he does not need to. Orcs, barbarians, carrion eaters, vampires, half-snake men, cultists, undead, demons, he lists them like weather. The Empire has tried for thousands of years to conquer that frontier, and the frontier has answered with graves. Jem has watched me grow up in these alleys. He knows the law, knows that pioneer lords are approved personally by Duke Lorand, and for one breath his only hope is that the Duke refuses my application. Rejection would be humiliation. Approval would be a death sentence. That hope dies at the doorway. A soldier in black armor arrives with the hawk emblem of Lorand on his chest, checks the house number, and walks straight in. He hands me a yellowed paper with a blood-red seal. The Duke has approved the application. The words are routine to the messenger, but every line seals my path. Gather at the Duke's mansion tomorrow, receive supplies, choose a territory, reclaim the L's barony. The order names me Baron Lear, then sends me toward the place that kills real knights. The soldier leaves as quickly as he came, disgusted by the slum and convinced another ignorant dreamer is walking to his death. Inside the room, Jem says nothing. I say nothing. The order in my hands is already heavier than the black bread under my bed. Refusing is not an option. In Griffin law, a volunteer pioneer lord who backs out is treated as a deserter and hanged. In a world with extraordinary powers, running is not realistic either. The original Lear gambled because starvation was killing him anyway. Now I have inherited the gamble. Then at the moment the room feels smallest, a blue light appears in my mind. It gathers, sharpens, and forms a panel only I can truly perceive. It says I have become a lord. It says the intelligence system has activated. For the first time, the death sentence has a crack in it. The rules pour into my mind. The system refreshes every 5 days, gives 5 pieces of intelligence, ranks them from 1 to 6 stars, and guarantees a high-value result after enough refreshes. Jem is still worried, so I force myself calm and ask to be alone. Jem leaves with a blessing and an offer of help through the Adventurers Guild. When the door closes, I stop pretending. The room is still bare, the bed still broken, the order still in my hand, but now there is a blue panel in my mind and a chance to read the future before it kills me. I silently give the command to refresh, because it is the first time the value is boosted. At least one result will be 5 stars or higher. That single rule changes everything. As a starving fallen noble, I do not need strength today if I can find the right opportunity before anyone else knows it exists. The first intelligence is only 1 star. Dean, an officer in charge of pioneer supplies, is preparing to accept a bribe from the Roar clan. Useful in another situation, maybe, but not for me. Special supplies are for families with glorious history. The L's clan is not important enough to benefit. The second clue is also 1 star. Over 100 ogres will attack Windmill Town tomorrow morning. The creatures are strong, level 6 monsters, and the information proves the system can see real danger. But I have never even heard of Windmill Town, and I have no power to use this clue yet. Then the third clue changes my breathing. At the Ninth District Market, stall 13 is selling red leaf tree seedlings, except they are actually magma fruit tree seedlings, valuable magic plants. One fruit can be worth more than an ordinary person earns in a year. This is not trivia. This is money. The fourth clue is also 2 stars, but politically sharper. Farina Lorand, the Duke's eldest daughter and a level 16 Grand Mage, is searching for blue crystal grass. The grass itself matters. The person who wants it matters more. If I can connect those facts, a plant becomes leverage with the city's most unreachable family. Then the fifth piece finishes refreshing. It is different from the others. Gold, full star gold. My fingers tighten around the document and blood rushes so hard through me that the room almost disappears. The system has not given me a useful clue. It has pointed at something impossible. A Tomb Raider gang will bring a cloudy crystal to the Ninth District black market. To everyone else, it is a damaged relic. To the system, it is a broken divine format of the swamp god. With blood, someone can control a piece of divine authority, and the sale is still ahead of me. For the first time since waking in this starving body, I have more than fear. The Pioneer Order still forces me toward the wilderness, but the intelligence system gives me timing, targets, and secrets. I do not need to be strong today. I need to move before the rest of Lorand knows what is waiting in its own slums. That is the real turn in my story. The room has not changed. The bread is still inedible, the door still opens onto sewage, and tomorrow still demands I stand before the Duke's people. But my position has changed. The world thinks it has sent a ruined heir to die. I now have intelligence worth killing for. So the next move is simple and dangerous. Leave the room, survive the slum, and reach the opportunities before anyone else sees their value. The system has given me a map of hidden leverage. Now I have to prove I can turn knowledge into power before the wilderness comes to collect me. The first refresh has given me both a miracle and a problem. 6-star information exists, but I am broke, ordinary, and unable to simply rob anyone stronger. I breathe down the excitement until it becomes a sequence. Verify the simple seedling clue, turn it into money, and only then reach for the impossible prize. My fortune begins at floor level. I pry loose the brick that hides this body's last savings and take out 3 silver coins, enough for bare survival if I spend them like a slum resident. Instead, I shut the door behind me and treat those coins as the stake for my first controlled gamble. 20 minutes of alleys deliver me into the Ninth District's trade current. The poor haggle over copper because a single coin matters. I use the original body's familiarity to cut through the peddler belt and into the main market, where the crowd thins just enough for a careful search. The shop is bigger than the stalls around it, and the seedlings outside look ordinary enough to ignore. Then I see the inverted triangle under the lame man's sleeve. The Pure Blood Brotherhood uses shops like feelers, and that means the real target cannot be exposed. I keep my face casual and let my eyes do the work. I perform ignorance first. Green fruit, long leaf, red leaf. The common names make the lame man lose interest. Only after the seller relaxes do I sort through the mud and find the real prize. There are just 12 magma fruit saplings hidden among lookalikes, so I build the purchase around camouflage rather than greed. The price is ordinary, 20 seedlings for 1 silver. I pay 2 silver for 40 seedlings, then keep haggling because everyone in the market haggles. The seller's face softens at the coins but twists at the demand, and in the end he adds 5 more seedlings just to drive me away. I leave with 45, not a grand display, just a quiet win hidden under mud. The seedlings are half an arm long and too filthy to attract interest. That is exactly what I need. I leave the Ninth District by quick turns, pass into a city of spires, glass, and heroic reliefs, and feel the irony instead of wonder. The beautiful robe still has lice, and I hire a carriage toward the people who can pay. By sunset, the carriage has carried me from slum mud to a wall fit for a small town. Angels decorate the manor, roses climb through water mist, and guards stare like drawn blades. I walk into that pressure and lift what looks like a filthy bundle of saplings. The bait is not the bundle itself. It is the phrase blue crystal grass and the name Farina. The knight's job is to stop threats, and a patched commoner with mud-streaked saplings looks like either a nuisance or a trap. I do not pretend the saplings are blue crystal grass. I say I know where it is, then frame the decision so the guard can report the clue without losing face. The danger at the gate loosens by a fraction. The interrogation breaks under a sound from the street. 7 white unicorns pull a rose-covered carriage, and greenery along the road seems to wake as it passes. A beautiful maid steps down first, making the actual passenger feel even more unreal. Then Farina Lorand exits, black gown, floating hair, gem-blue eyes, and a presence that changes how everyone at the gate breathes. Every guard lowers his head as if another glance would profane her. I read the movement, not as worship, but as evidence. This world has knight and mage paths, and Farina is not merely the city princess. At 24, she is already a level 16 Grand Mage, the kind of strategic force nobles and soldiers revere for reasons beyond beauty. Farina notices the saplings before she notices me. That glance matters. The mud hides a rare magma fruit seedling well enough for the market, not for her. Then she turns to me and casually reveals she heard the gate conversation through the air. I feel the strangeness of magic, but keep my greeting controlled and noble. I do not dress the deal in romance. I have inherited a title. I am about to become a pioneer lord, and I need resources. Farina understands before I finish. When she asks what I want in exchange, I give the location directly, northwest of Lorand, in a valley where lilies bloom. Information only becomes value once it reaches the person who can use it. Farina probes the strange confidence behind my surrender of the clue. I cover the hard answer with praise of her reputation, even if both of us know praise can be a tool. What matters is that my certainty does not waver. Farina chooses action, names Raquel, and orders the blue crystal grass retrieved immediately. Raquel receives the order like a sacred oath. Farina answers logistics with a spell. The sky cries, shadow falls, and a griffin lands before the gate. Falcon head, lion body, vast wings, amber killing eyes, and enough mass to make ordinary courage feel theoretical. Lorand City's power has feathers, claws, and rank. The creature should frighten an ordinary person. My eyes light up instead. Farina notices the mismatch. No seed of magic, no power, yet I look at a battlefield monster as if it is something I have always wanted to touch. Raquel climbs on under every soldier's envy, the griffin hammers the ground with wind, and the retrieval party vanishes into the sky. Only after the sky clears does Farina ask my name. I give it as Lear Els with a noble greeting, and she places her next request precisely. She wants the magma fruit saplings. She even explains the catch I could verify later 20 years to bear fruit with constant care. I do not cling to them. I separate 12 muddy saplings and hand them over where they wake with visible life under her touch. Farina promises the real compensation after tomorrow's Pioneer Lord territory choice. I accept, then prove my priorities by asking to borrow 100 gold coins right now. The guards nearly boil over at the audacity, but Farina laughs and orders Jasmine to fetch the money. I check the bag without shame. Startup capital matters more than looking elegant. Once the money is in hand, I do not linger under noble attention. Behind me, Farina and Jasmine can wonder whether I came only for coins. Ahead of me, the numbers are already settling. Magma fruit saplings had outside value, blue crystal grass had bounty value, and 100 gold exceeds the plan. The supplies Farina promised are extra. Within half a day, 2 modest intelligence leads have filled my wallet, and my mind turns back toward the Golden Swamp divine format waiting on July 8. On July 8th, morning mist chills Lorand City as I return to the 9th District under a black cloak. The place I enter is not a bazaar for honest trade, but the black market, illicit wealth hidden inside ruins and poverty, where nobles and underworld names both come when something needs to vanish quietly. The black market is wilder than I expected. Stolen armor, potions, weapons, captives, and strange ores sit openly on ground cloths, yet almost no one calls out. I do not browse for pleasure. I keep counting. The intelligence gave me a time, a place, and a stall number, and every step is measured against that clue. The count brings me to an old ore seller with gray hair and a broken right arm. It looks wrong immediately. The man has ores, not tomb relics, and the crystal ball is nowhere on the cloth. I keep searching anyway because the clue is too valuable to abandon over one awkward count. Then the missing condition arrives with the sun. 3 shabby men carrying damp leather backpacks step into the empty space beside the ore cellar and spread a dirty yellow cloth. One of them has a colorful bamboo dragonfly stuck in his pack. When the yellowish crystal ball comes out, I understand the trick. This is the stall the intelligence meant. The 23rd stall has just been formed. I do not lunge for the treasure. I ask politely, handle everything, and let the act breathe. 10 minutes later, my hand closes around the crystal ball. It is cold, scratched, and ugly from the earth. To the sellers, it is just another old object. To me, it is the kind of thing that could make the world go mad. The purchase is a performance. I ask about an ivory bowl, an ivory cup, and other relics before touching the crystal ball's price. I push low, get refused, argue long enough to look ordinary, and finally pay 20 gold for 3 old items. The tomb raiders are satisfied. The one-armed ore seller only regrets that he did not sell to such a generous fool first. Before leaving, I notice the bamboo dragonfly and ask for it. The seller gives it away, almost softly, because his daughter made it that morning. I take the little color from this cannibalistic world and walk out with something far more dangerous hidden away. The swamp divine formats container, bought for pocket change compared with its true worth. The system answers the completed mission before I even reach safety. New intelligence blooms in my mind. Blood can integrate the divine format, but the process will leave me asleep. Tomorrow's territory choice can reveal the authority of the swamp, and the slave market will soon offload 2 squadrons of brutal wetland lizard men that the divine format can subdue. I do not celebrate blindly. The divine format without authority is a container without water. Authority without the format is power I cannot hold. Meyer Swamp becomes non-negotiable. The lizard men become a possible first army. But first comes survival during 10 helpless hours, so I name the safest place I can afford, Rose House. Half an hour later, the carriage stops before a world the 9th District can barely imagine. Rose House is stained glass, carved walls, angel statues, rose lawns, and staff who understand noble money. I accept the deference without slowing down. Luxury matters less than security, and security is exactly why I came. On the 10th floor, I turn caution into procedure. I order privacy, lock the door, draw the curtains, and finally take off the cloak. 3 old items go onto the table, but only one matters. The stained, scratched crystal ball waits in front of me, and the room narrows around it. I choose the moment. I bite my finger, let blood strike the crystal ball, and the room turns as bright as day. The object stops being a curiosity and becomes a conduit. Divine, majestic energy pours inward, too vast for my body to stay awake beneath it. I collapse into the 10-hour risk I chose. The room stays sealed while the light works. For hours, the crystal ball feeds energy into me like a small captive sun. Then the glow fades. The ball slips from my hand onto the bed, empty of power. No one outside knows that the valuable part is no longer in the object at all. It is moving through my soul. When I wake, the change is not subtle. My body feels full, my mind holds a deep blue whirlpool, and the word comes to me at once: seed of magic. I have stepped onto the extraordinary path as a mage. At the center of that new magic, the broken swamp divine format floats where no thief in a market can reach it. Inside me. The system has changed with me. A new attribute view rises inside my mind, showing me what I have become. An apprentice mage, level 3, with a swamp healing touch and a divine remnant that can mark weakened swamp life into submission. The numbers matter, but the meaning matters more. My fate has stopped being ordinary. The broken divine format is only 10% of a dead god's weight, but to me it is already a summit path. I open the curtains. Sunset burns across Lorand, beautiful and untouchable, and my heartbeat answers it. The ball is no longer the treasure. The treasure is the pressure now fused into my magic and soul. The next morning belongs to law, titles, and resources. Pioneer lords gather at the Duke's mansion to choose land and receive support. I come dressed as baronels at last, the golden marigold crest on black cloth marking a privilege this body could not even legally wear before the title returned. The hall speaks in noble hunger. The 2 white-robed heirs beside me dream aloud of Duke Lorand, dragon-slaying strength, future towns, and above all Farina, the Lorand Rose. I hear the worship without sharing it. To me, Farina's status is less interesting than what reward such a goddess of the city might choose to give. Then the hall falls silent. Farina enters like spring breaking winter, ash-blonde hair, deep blue eyes, white dress, black gloves, and the kind of elegance that makes nobles forget how to breathe. Most receive only acknowledgement. I give the proper noble greeting, and Farina returns it as if I stand closer to a peer than a servant. The 2 heirs beside me kneel in devotion and suddenly realize they are the ones being ignored. Farina's simple greeting pulls every gaze in the hall onto me, yet neither of us treats the crowd as important. My confidence comes from the intelligence system and the fused divine format, while Farina is already accustomed to being the center of every room. Her speech frames pioneer lordship as a return to imperial glory. Ancestors bled for the Griffin Empire, and the people before her have already chosen whether to die in cowardice or bloom in splendor. The praise hits the crowd like a stimulant. My attention sharpens as Farina turns to the actual rules. Pioneer lords can choose alone or together, but already claimed territories and protected development zones cannot be selected until the 5-year failure window passes. A living map appears in pale blue light, vivid enough for rivers to flow and grass to move. The green circles mark territories already under development, while the few town icons reveal how rarely pioneer lords turn claims into stable settlements. Most stable towns lie only a few hundred kilometers from Lorand, and after 1,000 years only about 100 territories have truly endured. Fear cools some faces, but others fix on the authority of those who succeeded, especially the first duke who built Lorand itself. Before anyone else takes time to deliberate, I say I have already chosen. The hall turns toward the thin young man in the black robe, and Farina asks for my choice. I point to the map and say the name no one expects, Meyer Swamp. The crowd calculates the distance at more than 1,000 kilometers and calls it death-seeking. Farina warns me that deep wilderness danger is beyond imagination. My answer is slow and decisive. No one has done it, so I will be the first. My words change the mood. The other pioneer lords still may not understand me, but the courage of the line earns respect. Farina calls my courage commendable and feels rare anticipation toward the fallen noble who carries such unshaken confidence. I do not linger after choosing my territory. My mind is already on afternoon wetland lizardman purchases and tomorrow's intelligence refresh. But Jasmine stops me just outside the hall and asks me to follow her to a side chamber for Farina's summons. Farina arrives after a short wait and immediately makes the meeting personal, reminding me of the money I still owe. I answer with careful confidence about friends and future territory profits, and Farina admits my choice of Meyer Swamp was unexpected but clearly considered. I learn why the blue crystal grass mattered. It was a magic plant essential for Farina's advancement. I say the 100 gold loan helped me too, but Farina refuses to settle the account so simply and announces that she has prepared resources for me. At Farina's call, Jasmine gives me the list. It names 30 carriage loads of food, farming tools, ironware, and other supplies, plus 1,000 gold coins, 200 Guard Legion armor sets, and 100 slave artisans. I understand how generous the armor alone is and mark Farina's kindness seriously. I respond to Farina's remark about being friends by introducing myself again as Lear Els and greeting Farina Lorand directly. Jasmine is startled by the direct address, but Farina senses genuine recognition in it and answers in kind, increasingly curious about the confidence of a fallen noble from the 9th District. Farina's strangest gift appears from thin air, a small wooden cage holding a plump gray insect-like creature. She calls it a Meyer mudworm from an ancient ruin, suited to swamps and legendary for preying on dragons when mature. I accept, thinking of the swamp divine format's control over swamp life. I cannot match Farina's generosity in gold, so I give the crooked 7-colored bamboo dragonfly I call my cherished possession. Jasmine is stunned by the imbalance, yet Farina receives it seriously, calls it special, invokes the goddess, and silently wishes for her new friend to return alive from the wilderness. The episode opens on motion, not planning. I leave the Duke's mansion area in a hired carriage, riding toward the slave market while the city rolls past the window. In my mind, the system tests itself against Farina and Jasmine. Their strength is visible only in fragments, enough to remind me how far below them I still stand. I turn from raw awe to logistics. 2 intelligence items are already finished. The divine fragment entered my soul, and Meyer Swamp became my territory. The remaining clue points to District 2, Shop 13, where Dragon Fang will unload a brutal swamp race at a discount. I have only Farina's 1,000 coins, so timing matters. By noon, the carriage stops before the slave market. I pay and step down into a part of Lorand where profit has erased mercy. The place is larger than the black market, busier than I expected, and built for nobles who need bodies from the wilderness turned into tools before the trail even begins. Inside, the market presses around me like a living throat. Carved walls, stained glass, humid rot, sewage, sweat, and iron cages all crowd the frame. Beastmen and stranger races glare from behind bars. I notice the usefulness of strong captives, but ordinary choices are too expensive. The intelligence has given me a sharper target. With the target narrowed to Area 2, I ask staff instead of wandering. Soon I reach Dragon Fang Trading Company. The plaque carries magic that lets meaning jump straight into the mind, another reminder that this world hides systems inside daily life. For me, the important part is simpler. The intelligence has matched reality. Mackin Roland appears with a merchant's softness, round belly, rich robe, jeweled hat, and a smile designed to calm buyers. He praises my bearing and offers popular slaves first. I let the performance pass. I only ask one question that matters for a swamp territory. What does Dragon Fang have that can survive mud and water? The options sound practical but unimpressive. Swamp beastmen, half-fishmen, mire dwarves, each weaker and cheaper than true military power. I keep my face controlled. The intelligence promised something stronger. When Mackin insists these are the market's normal swamp choices, I ask again, narrowing the pressure until the hidden problem has to reveal itself. The answer arrives as damage control. A young employee hurries in, whispering that the wetland lizardmen have rioted again. Mackin's polished smile cracks. The beast-fighting arena refuses them, he admits, because they are too savage to manage. I hear exactly what I came for, ask their level, and choose to see them anyway. The back hall is wider and cleaner than the market outside, but the danger is concentrated. 20 cages lie on the ground. Inside are upright reptilian warriors, green-brown scales like living armor, dagger claws, heavy limbs, and amber eyes full of murder. My system reads them as low-potential, fully developed fighters, exactly the kind of force I can use now. Then the cages erupt. The lizardmen curse, throw themselves at iron, and scrape the bars until the sound cuts through the hall. Mackin's expression turns grim. More than 100 have already died in a week. Even the ring of enslavement, a device built to tear obedience through the soul, cannot force them into fear. Mackin expects the spectacle to frighten me off. Instead, I study the pattern. A creature that becomes more violent under pain is a nightmare as an enemy, but as a subordinate it becomes a weapon that does not retreat. The same brutality that makes them unsellable might become the core of my first army. The bargaining turns ruthless. Mackin opens at a loss, but I cut deeper and offer to take every survivor. The problem is cash. My pouch holds 1,000 gold, not 2. I ask to pay the rest later, already thinking the next intelligence refresh can solve the gap, or that Farina may become a very useful lender. The hall answers before Mackin can negotiate. 2 lizardmen hurl themselves into resistance until their rings end it brutally. Another explosion follows, thickening the blood smell. Mackin's control finally snaps. Losing money is better than watching the stock destroy itself. He tells Lear to pay 1,000 gold and take every remaining lizardman away now. My body reacts before his will can polish it. The blood, the burst skulls, and the smell make his heart lurch. He forces the reaction down. This world will not spare the weak, and his territory will not be built with clean hands. He accepts the deal and places Farina's rose-marked gold into Mackin's hands. The pouch changes the room more than the gold does. Mackin spots the rose emblem and suddenly measures Lear again. The mark belongs to Farina, not to anyone who can casually copy it. I admits the funds were her gift and makes the fact sound almost ordinary. To Mackin, the poor young lord becomes much harder to read. Only now does the control scepter appear. A servant brings it in after the gold is credited, and Mackin explains the linked rings with renewed politeness. The device can punish rebellion and kill through the collars, at least in theory. I take it, then names the delivery place, Rose House, where Farina's protection and his supplies already wait. Before they can be moved, the cages start boiling again. Blood has sharpened the lizardmen's frenzy. I faces them in Dragon Fang's hall, not in some later courtyard, and releases the pressure hidden in the swamp divine remnant. His command is simple, but to their weakened souls it lands like a god staring directly at them. The change is immediate. Bodies that just tried to tear iron apart begin to shiver, heads lowering one after another. I senses the mark bite into their souls and feels hostility turn into obedience, almost worship. Mackin sees only the impossible surface. The same creature's torture could not break have gone quiet because Lear spoke. I give the next order as if the outcome was always inevitable. The lizardmen will coordinate, leave the market, and later follow him back toward the wilderness. Mackin wakes from his shock and barks for immediate delivery to Rose House. Heavy-armored knights arrive, strong enough to manage normal threats, but even they approach these captives warily. The final proof comes when shackles are removed. The lizardmen obey every arrangement, as if their earlier madness belonged to different bodies. Mackin's respect hardens into business instinct. He offers Lear future internal prices, but he still will not gamble deeply on a pioneer lord. I accept the courtesy, boards the carriage, and leaves Dragon Fang behind. At Rose's house, Jasmine is waiting, golden hair catching the light as she reports that Farina's supplies have been placed in the side courtyard. The 100 artisans will arrive tomorrow, not now. Before Lear can settle into that, the lizard-men carriages arrive, and gray-green bodies begin jumping down onto noble ground with predatory eyes. The escort leader reports the delivery complete. I pays a small tip, pleased enough with the bargain to be generous. Jasmine watches the lizard-men with surprise and asks what Farina wanted to know. When will he leave? I give a measured answer. He will decide tomorrow, but within half a month at the latest. I ask where the armor is, and the entire lizard-man group follows his gesture without hesitation. The side courtyard is huge, filled with supply carriages, massive mottled unicorns, and a small hill of metal. The system confirms the armor's quality in silent glow. I give the order, and the lizard-men begin fitting themselves for war. Once armed, the lizard-men look even more dangerous. Black armor sits over natural scales, steel sabers flash in clawed hands, and heavy tails cut the air behind them. I see the distance between 2 days ago and now. The slum, the hunger, the empty room, none are gone, but he finally has force that belongs to him. The report happens elsewhere, separately. Jasmine returns to Rose Manor and tells Farina that Lear bought wetland lizardmen, the same kind even the arena refused after a steward transfer disrupted the deal. Jasmine expects surprise. Farina gives only a gentle smile. A slum-born fallen noble who faced her without shrinking was never going to be ordinary. Only after Jasmine leaves does Lear address the armored lizardmen directly. He asks who leads them. Every reptilian gaze turns toward one larger figure, broader and taller than the rest. The warrior steps through the formation, kneels, and bows his hideous head. His common tongue is rough, but the submission is unmistakable. His name is Hags. I does not waste the moment on speeches. He tells Hags to keep everyone in line because they still need to remain in Lorand for several days. The order lands like law. The entire force is soul-marked, and Hags accepts the command without hesitation. I now has not just bodies, but a chain of obedience. The force is strong, but Lear immediately notices what it lacks. None of the lizard-men is a hero unit. In this world, advancing through extraordinary ranks can sometimes awaken a talent that turns one leader into the equal of several squads. The chance is rare, but the possibility matters. I files the deficiency away. With command settled, Lear moves to maintenance. A force that has been starved, beaten, and caged needs food before it can become useful. He calls Rose house staff to feed the lizardmen properly. Then he withdraws from the courtyard. The military problem is contained for now, and the next problem waits in his room. Sunset finds Lear alone in his room, not in a public planning chamber. Red clouds burn over Lorand as he reviews the day. Meyer Swamp is now legally his. 200 armored level 6 lizardmen answer to him. His contact with Farina has deepened. For a fallen noble with almost nothing yesterday, the gains are explosive. He counts more than glory. Over 70 gold coins remain. 30 carriages of exploration supplies weight with horses and vehicles. The lizardmen now carry standard armor. Most importantly, the swamp divine format is fused into his soul. I is still not safe, but he is no longer empty-handed. The future has weight now. Night deepens and Lear stays awake. At midnight, the dwarf bell towers across Lorand ring 12 times, their sound rolling through the city and into his room. The date turns from July 9 to July 10. He has been waiting for this exact moment because 5 days of cooldown have finally ended. The panel appears in his mind, not as an object anyone else could touch. I give the silent command to refresh. New intelligence unfolds in 5 blue slots, hidden from anyone nearby but clear to him. This time there is no guaranteed golden miracle, only the system's normal output, and Lear has to extract value from every clue. The first clue is distant trouble. Harpies will raid River Valley Town, but Lear has no reason to chase every disaster in the Northern Territory. The second is more personal. Farina's love of roses began with a childhood ambush, rose bushes, survival, and the awakening of a talent tied to roses. Useful, perhaps, but not urgent. The third clue answers the regret he just felt. At the black market entrance, an ore stall hides an ancient, magical beast crystal core. It is not for every lizard man. Only the strongest, Hags, can endure the transformation. My excitement rises. The system has pointed directly at a possible leader upgrade for his new army. The fourth clue sounds absurd and invaluable at the same time. In the 5th district, Grey Mist Trading Company is selling dried dung mistaken for ordinary earth dragon waste. Soaked in blood, its dragons might can return. For a half-month trek through monster territory, something that scares predators away may be worth more than gold. The last clue is the real pressure. A relic conflict will block the wilderness route in 20 days, and if Lear has not departed before July 15, he may be delayed 7 months. Worse, the authority hidden in Meyer Swamp will revive within half a year. Preparation can no longer stretch comfortably. The road has a deadline. When the panel fades, Lear does not celebrate loudly. He lies in bed and sorts the route in silence. Buy the dung, secure the hidden core, prepare hags, and leave before the world closes the road. The new intelligence is less dazzling than the first refresh, but it is practical. That may be more important now. July 10 begins before sunrise. I returns to the slave market, now familiar enough to move without hesitation. Morning mist and high humidity press down the worst stench, which improves his mood. He is not here for slaves this time. The target is the 5th District Grey Mist Trading Company and the overlooked dung on a shelf. Grey Mist is much smaller than Dragon Fang, and its business is different. It does not display cages of captives. It sells the things used on them. Shackles, chains, collars, mouth gags, and whips fill the shop. A thin, sharp-faced owner in gemmed robes greets Lear in a voice that immediately feels less pleasant than Macken's. My gaze skips the obvious piles. The displayed dung is too fresh, too normal, too different from the clue. Then he notices the dusty heap near the bottom, dried harder and older than the rest. His senses stir, and the mental panel confirms it. This is not ordinary earth dragon dung. It carries dormant giant dragon pressure. The owner tries to dress trash as treasure, claiming the old heap came from stronger earth dragons and offering a generous discount. I nearly laughs. The man is not Macken. He treats every buyer like a fool. I cut through the performance. No one else wants this aging stuff, he says, so stop pretending and name a practical price. The owner asks for gold. I cut straight to silver and reminds him the heap has sat untouched for months, losing value every day. The argument hits the weak point. The owner folds, pretending friendship while staff rush to bag the goods. I spends only 20 silver on a treasure that can shield his expedition. The entire purchase takes almost no time. I counts the silver, takes the bag, and leaves. Behind him, the owner immediately boasts to his employee about business skill, proud that he sold inferior goods instead of throwing them away. That ignorance is the best part of the deal. My road to Meyer Swamp has become safer. The next day, July 11, the scene shifts to the 9th District Black Market entrance. A one-armed old man in a black robe sits before junk ore, playing the expert for passing fools. Then he sees Lear. To him, this is the young buyer who spent heavily near a Tomb Raider stall days ago. The fat sheep has returned. The seller clears his throat and changes tactics. With ordinary customers, he pretends indifference. With Lear, he makes the first move. He claims the ores are newly bought at high price and hints that the previous batch hid dragon blood refined gold. I know the exaggeration is ridiculous, but he lets the old man talk. I examines the spread without hurry. The intelligence did not tell him to buy the most impressive piece, only the right one. After checking everything, his attention lands on the stone in the old man's hand. He asks to see that piece. The seller is startled, then delighted, mistaking my accuracy for proof the bait can be priced higher. The old man invents a grand origin from a dwarf artisan and waves the word mithril like a hook. I answer by stepping away. That single motion does more work than argument. The price falls from impossible to merely greedy while the seller tries to keep the supposed sucker from leaving. I let the panic ripen. I finally opens his hand, 10 silver coins. The old man complains for a breath, then moves faster than his own protest, taking the coins and placing the stone in my palm. To the seller, a river rock became profit. To Lear, the hidden core inside it may become Hag's evolution and the backbone of his army. The purchases should have been impossible bargains, but Lear knows exactly why they were cheap. Information turned trash stalls into treasure, and 30 silver bought him both dragon dung and the hidden core for Hags. As he heads back to Rose's house, the goal hardens inside him. Process every clue, then move toward Meyer Swamp and the authority waiting there. Back at Rose's house, Jasmine is waiting instead of Farina, sharp-eyed and precise as always. Her gesture pulls my attention to the side courtyard, where more than 100 mud swamp people stand rigid with fear. The wetland lizard men are only watching, but their presence alone turns the artisans into statues before Lear can even speak. Jasmine does not sell them as warriors. She explains what actually matters to Lear. These swamp-born people like wet ground, think better than ordinary laborers, and build or forge with unusual talent. Their weakness is obvious in every trembling shoulder, but that only clarifies their role. Swords may seize land, hands like these can make it livable. I let the system's blue glow rise in his mind, not in the air where others can read it. The panel confirms Jasmine's claim: low-level artisans, poor fighters, but naturally clever with construction and tools. For a swamp territory with no roads, no walls, and no workshops, that kind of efficiency is not decoration. It is infrastructure. I answer Jasmine seriously because the gift deserves more than polite words. 100 timid artisans may look unimpressive beside armored lizard men, but to him they are future houses, tools, storage yards, and defenses. He asks Jasmine to carry his thanks back to Farina and silently adds the favor to the growing debt he intends to honor. Then Jasmine gives him the object that changes the march itself, a magic map. Every pioneer lord receives some version, but this one is different. It comes from Farina personally, and Jasmine's tone makes the distinction impossible to miss. I take the scroll as a tool, a privilege, and another sign that Farina is investing far beyond courtesy. Jasmine does not linger. Once the gifts are delivered, she bows and departs with a soldier's neat finality. I watch her go, feeling how heavy Farina's support has become. Only after he exhales does he open the scroll, shifting from gratitude back to work. Sentiment can wait. Tomorrow's route has to be understood today. The map behaves like a living thing. Terrain shifts across parchment, water moves, and one endpoint fixes my attention on Meyer Swamp, while another mark reflects where he stands in Lorand. The system quietly explains the magic, but the conclusion is already clear. The wilderness may still kill them, yet at least they will not be lost before reaching it. The map's value is almost embarrassing, another costly favor on top of armor, food, artisans, and protection. I folds it away instead of drowning in the debt. The correct response is not hesitation. He returns to the courtyard, where the wetland lizard men's fervent eyes remind him that command now means turning every gift into future power. When Lear turns from the map to the artisans, the crowd looks painfully ordinary: torn burlap, strange algae-green pupils, and fear that has learned to survive by bowing first. Then an elderly mud swamp man steps forward. Bane's body is hunched and his voice trembles, but he still manages the formal greeting of someone offering service to a new lord. My surprise is private but sharp. The panel in his mind does not show a disposable laborer. It shows a hero unit. Bane's strength is not killing, but planning buildings, saving materials, and using terrain intelligently. For a territory that begins as swamp and hope, that may be worth more than another blade in the first few weeks. I does not waste the discovery. He tells Bane to leave with him at dawn and makes the old artisan's purpose plain. The territory will need his assistance and dedication. Bane answers with obedience, and Lear sees the dynamic clearly. The man is terrified, but if given direction and protection, his mind can help shape Meyer Swamp into something defensible. I take stock like a man counting chances to stay alive. Over 100 artisans, 2 squadrons of wetland lizard men, 30 supply carts, armor, food, and tools. This is not the usual beginning of a ruined heir. Many noble families would bleed themselves dry to assemble less. The thought does not make him complacent, it makes him move faster. I hands Bane the work that suits him. Check every supply and identify what is missing before tomorrow. The order almost dies when Bane sees the lizardmen again. I cut through that fear directly. Those sabers are for enemies, not for the artisans. Only after that promise does Bane find enough courage to pass between the brutal warriors. The carts are packed almost too well. Daily necessities, equipment, and the kind of magical food a noble force would guard as strategy. Noah's rice changes the arithmetic. A small amount can feed a person for days, and Farina has given him a cartload. I let Bane handle the inventory because territory building starts with food, not speeches. Once the supplies are assigned, Lear turns to the brutal figure that matters most in battle. Hag stands out even among wetland lizard men, and the treasure for him is already in my possession. The order is short: follow me. The courtyard remains behind because this transformation is not a spectacle for the ranks. It is a private gamble. I brings Hags into a room, not a yard full of witnesses. The black ore looks unimpressive until Lear names what is sealed inside it: the faded energy core of an ancient magical beast. He asks the question that gives the upgrade its shape. Does Hags want to become the blade in his hand? Hags understands faster than most humans would. A chance to become a hero is not a reward. It is the dream of every life that wants to break its limits. His savage body folds into the humblest posture he can manage. I watch the madness in those amber eyes turn into devotion, and hears Hags offer not obedience only, but soul and direction. I let Hags stand and gives him the stone. The lizard man does not hesitate. His claws crush the shell until black fragments crack apart, revealing a thumb-sized red glow that feels absurdly dense for something so small. The room seems to hold a tiny sun. I give the final instruction: consume it and endure the change. Hags swallows the core in one motion. The effect is immediate and ugly. His aura erupts, his face twists, and the body that once ignored pain collapses into shaking muscle and animal growls. I does not intervene. The source of the opportunity is real, but nothing in the intelligence promised comfort. Evolution has teeth. The minutes stretch until Lear checks the clue again in his mind. The hint had been brutally specific. The ore seller's stone contained a remnant core, and only Hags could bear the evolution. Watching the lizard man writhe, Lear understands why. Other warriors might have died from this alone. The system was not vague prophecy, it was surgical instruction. The transformation does not end quickly. For hours, Lear waits in the room while Hags's body changes in front of him. Height, muscle, pressure, every detail grows harder and more dangerous. Even on the floor, trembling, Hags feels like something with claws pressed against a cage. I is seeing a weapon being forged alive. When Hags finally wakes, the room seems smaller around him. The armor clings over swollen muscle, fangs crowd his blood-filled mouth, and dagger-long claws catch the light. He does not celebrate by roaring to the courtyard. He steps to Lear, kneels, and offers the new body back to the one who gave it, a war saber ready for thorns. I smiles because the difference is obvious. Bane matters deeply, but Bane builds. Hags kills. In battle, this newly made hero could erase a crowd of ordinary workers without slowing down, and that is exactly why the transformation matters. I has gained more than a stronger servant. He has gained a center for his future army. The new panel confirms the leap. Hags has crossed into the Knight Hero path, gained chi blood, stronger skills, and a talent that makes my eyes brighten: regeneration. Injury no longer means simple attrition. With enough blood and brutality, Hags can recover in combat, even from losses that would end other fighters. The private gamble has become a military asset. My mind keeps turning after the panel fades. Chi blood is the mark of higher combat power, and Hags now has it. Regeneration stacks with his existing savagery, making him the kind of frontline monster enemies cannot easily grind down. In my terms, the expedition has not merely added strength, it has added a shock point. I does not let triumph become noise. He tells Hags to return to the others, keep them restrained, and prepare for departure. Tomorrow morning they move for the territory that must become home. Hags lowers his head and obeys. Only after the transformed hero leaves does the room become quiet enough for the system to answer again. The follow-up comes only after Hags is gone. A new message blooms in my mind. Somewhere in Mire Swamp grows white flower long-leaf grass, and Hags can use it to rise again. My surprise turns into a grin. The system is not only finding treasures, it is beginning to map upgrade chains for the people under him. In the side yard, Hags's new aura announces what happened before he explains it. The wetland lizardmen sense hero power and erupt with stunned, feverish worship. Bane sees the reaction and understands enough to be shaken. Becoming a hero should be hardship, luck, and years. I has made it look like a gift he can simply bestow. On July 12th, Lear finally turns preparation into motion. The Rose House bill is settled, the best black horse carries him forward, and the convoy begins to form around 30 packed wagons. Mud Swamp people keep near the supplies, while 200 armored wetland lizardmen take guard positions. The Pioneer Lord is no longer waiting for exile. He is marching. Loran's morning streets are wide enough to make my convoy feel small. Blue stone stretches in clean lanes, old houses rise like jagged teeth, stained glass catches the sun, and reliefs sell the city's heroic memory to everyone who passes. The brass clock keeps time over it all, reminding Lear that this place took 1,000 years to become untouchable. At the gate, Loran stops being architecture and becomes warning. The walls rise like an old soldier that refuses to die, scarred by wars and crowded with engines of defense. 2 giant warrior statues cross their swords above the road. I rides under them with his convoy and understands exactly what the city is saying to the wilderness. Do not pass. A griffin cry lifts my eyes. More than 100 of the Empire's living emblems circle above the city, turning Lorant's defense into something that occupies even the sky. Instead of shrinking from it, Lear feels comparison catch fire. One day, his territory should have that weight. He turns forward and signals the army to move faster. Outside the walls, farmland spreads in green sheets, and the convoy keeps a pace Lear would once have considered impossible. By noon, they have already covered 30 kilometers and stop at a roadside well. Even the timid artisans are not collapsing. Noah's rice removes the need for cooking, and Lear sees how this world's bodies and resources change every travel calculation. The first day's distance surprises Lear almost as much as the city had. 70 kilometers before sunset would have been punishing in another life, yet the group still functions. They camp near a small town because night travel is a different kind of risk. Within 100 kilometers, Lorant's patrols still erase threats, but that shield is already becoming thinner. The next day, the road changes character. Bluestone gives way to mud, and speed drops with every rut. I sorts the frontier in layers: security zone, control zone, vigilance area, monitoring zone, then true wilderness. Names make it sound orderly, but the deeper ranges belong to things Lorand only watches, not rules. Every kilometer matters. Once they are 100 kilometers out, Lear makes the ugly preparation useful. He tells Bane to place several dry chunks into a clay basin. Bane sees old dung and thinks of earth dragons, stale scent, and a failed deterrent. His regret is practical. Without a working smell, monsters will come more often, and the journey's difficulty could multiply. I smiles because Bane's mistake is the point. This is not earth dragon waste. He calls hags forward and gives the order for blood. The wetland lizardman hero moves without hesitation, pulling a plump rooster from a wagon and breaking its neck with one twist. Blood sprays into the clay basin until the dry dung is soaked. The change arrives in breaths. Magic power bends toward the basin like water into a drain, and the soaked dung starts releasing something that is not smell alone. The pressure crawls over skin and scales. I watch the convoy feel hunted by an invisible apex creature, which is exactly why lesser predators will think twice before approaching. Bane finally understands and nearly loses his balance. Dragon dung is not just rare. Anything touched by dragons carries the logic of apex predators. Survival-minded creatures avoid that pressure because curiosity around dragons is suicide. I does not lecture further. He lets the aura do its work and orders the army to continue, safer without having drawn a sword. The 13th and 14th pass in motion, and by that night the convoy is more than 200 kilometers from Lorand. This is the vigilance area, not the safe farmland behind them. After dinner, Lear does not sleep. He stays up with the camp low around him, waiting until midnight on July 15th, when the system's timing finally turns over. Midnight arrives and my fatigue vanishes. He confirms the refresh, letting the new intelligence unfold in his mind rather than on any visible sign. The first clue is direct enough to change tomorrow's march. 20 kilometers ahead, Red Leaf Forest hides 3 squads of Earth Goblins. The ambush is still future tense, which means it can be turned. The remaining clues spread wider than one fight. The Duke's chief civil officer was tied to my father. Farina has quietly reached a new height and wants more roses. Scavenging ravens can draw a terrifying thunderstorm bird unless dragon dung is used correctly. Barbarian blood bandits can be avoided by hiding the same deterrent and waiting. Survival, politics, timing, all 5 matter. I works through the list instead of reacting blindly. Earth goblins are larger and crazier than common goblins, but 3 squads with a level 5 leader are not the disaster the wilderness can produce. The second clue is quieter and maybe longer lasting. His body's father had a bond with Lorant's chief civil officer. That connection should be visited, but not tonight. Farina's clue makes Lear pause for a different reason. She is still only 24, yet she has secretly broken through again, becoming the Empire's youngest Grand Mage. Her rose affinity is clearly tied to further advancement. I does not romanticize the opportunity. If the wilderness contains rare roses, sending them back could keep one of his most valuable relationships alive. The last 2 clues are pure wilderness cruelty, birds that can draw a level 13 monster, and barbarian blood bandits that require hiding the very deterrent protecting the convoy. Without advance warning, either encounter could become catastrophe. With warning, they are problems to schedule around. I reads twice more, feels the pressure ease, and finally lets himself sleep. Morning turns the first clue into ground under the convoy's wheels. A lizardman guard wakes Lear, and by midday the red tree line appears just where the system said it would. Crimson leaves move like flame above the road. My gaze sharpens. He tells Hags what he supposedly smells. Goblins are hiding in that forest. Prepare for battle. The warning does not frighten the lizardmen. It wakes them up. Around Lear they are obedient, almost restrained, but the forest promises prey and their instincts answer. I keep the convoy from becoming careless by leaving a squadron with the wagons. Then he takes Hags and the attack group into the red leaves, choosing to meet the ambush before it chooses him. I know the army structure now because he has to. Squads, squadrons, battalions, legions. This world reduces survival to organized violence. His old life had not trained him for slaughter, and the original body's slum memories were not battlefield experience. If he wants a territory, he cannot remain someone who flinches from the first real fight. The forest changes the lizardmen. Their bodies become livelier, amber eyes bright with the kind of madness Lear would rather direct than suppress. Noses twitch, then all of them turn toward the same hidden point. They have found the goblin lair. I nods and gives Hags command, trusting the new hero to turn instinct into formation. I does not pretend to be the strongest person present. His swamp blessing is healing, not a killing spell, and the first battle does not need heroic stupidity. He leaves one squad to guard him and sends Hags forward with the other 9. The formation is simple. Lear survives in the rear. The lizard men hunt. 200 meters ahead, the trap finally becomes visible. Dozens of earth goblins lurk on a small hill above the passage, built sturdier than the common version of their race, all ugly jaws, hooked noses, blue-pupiled eyes, and crude wooden clubs. They were waiting for prey to walk below them. My information has reversed the direction of surprise. Hags does not negotiate with creatures waiting to ambush his sovereign. His voice drops into one word and the 9 squads explode forward. Armor flashes between red leaves. Sabers angle for bodies. The goblins turn toward the sound too late to own the first move. I watch his warning become momentum. The earth goblins answer in the most dangerous way possible, not with fear, but with offended confidence. Their racial madness turns judgment down and morale up. They roar as if the armored wetland lizardmen are lambs instead of killers. For a breath, the forest becomes 2 waves of violence rushing at each other under the red leaves. Hags takes the insult personally. An earth goblin swings its wooden club with both hands, meeting the hero lizardman at full force. The answer is decisive. Hags's steel saber shears through the club, then through armorless flesh and bone. Blood hits the ground before the goblin can understand the difference between courage and power. After the first kill, Hags does not slow down. His saber keeps moving, anger and loyalty feeding the same motion, while other lizardmen rush forward as if afraid the prey will be gone before they arrive. Goblin clubs strike armor with hollow clangs and accomplish almost nothing. The ambushers have become trapped inside the violence they planned for someone else. The whole battle lasts less than 2 minutes. I watch from the rear as the last resistance disappears under sabers and armor. No earth goblin survives. The air fills with hot blood stink, and the red plants become redder for the wrong reason. Compared with the slave market's sudden execution, this is sustained, close, and much harder to look at. My heart shakes, but his feet move forward. He steps into the blood instead of around it, crossing scattered clubs and bodies until he reaches Hags. The praise that comes out of his throat is rough, but steady enough. Well done. The words are for Hags, and also for the watching army that needs its lord to remain standing. I turn from Hags to the field and lets the truth settle. This is only the beginning. Building a territory will not mean escaping war. It will mean surviving more of it again and again until walls and rules exist where blood now lies. Hags sees something change in his sovereign's gaze, a sharper edge that makes even him uneasy.